You have a USB? Yes. Give me a second, I will give it. Ναι, στέλιος γιατρός. Και το Inno έχει, Inno-EUt. Ναι, Inno-EUt. Chi arriva? C'è giusto quando ci devi. Thank you. You have a stick too? Yeah. Sorry, person who I gave you the USB stick, who was here before just a moment ago, who gave you position? Is it 3B?
Yes.
Okay. Just to make sure. Ήταν η Κυπριακή ομάδα. And which one do I need now?
Our one is extra one. The first one. Can you delete the stick?
Yes. Wait, I should use it from the right stick, this one.
And minus transfer back.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Can you also remove it?
Yes, of course. Hi, how are you, Sylvia? Yeah. Did you send me the presentation? Yeah, come here. Actually, if I give you a USB stick, can you put it here? You have a USB stick. I will give you a USB stick. It's easier.
Let me send. I send it to your email. Will I do that?
So add it here.
Okay.
It's easy. So
I have this.
open, closing. That one. And add it.
Yeah. Okay. Still yes. That is Robin.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Shall I give you the USB stick to add it on, or you don't have one?
I don't have one. Do you want?
Okay. Yeah, send me an email then.
I'll send you an email. Right. What's your?
So it's STY LIA NOS dot YIA.
Oh, SCYLI.
Shall I write it?
Yeah. Do you want it?
Probably
Yeah.
easier.
Come on, thanks.
Let's do Gmail languages.
Well, I might have to. No, got it.
Is that the upcycle?
Is that the...
This one?
No. Hold on. I might have to... I might have to download it as a PDF. Okay, well, so I'll send it this way.
Okay.
Oh, I can airdrop. Is your...
Yeah, I should be able to have it. Yeah.
Will I just email?
Yeah.
Do you want to type your email again? Sorry.
It's okay. Yep, here.
Let me know. Should send there, so...
Robin.
Yeah, that one, the PDF.
Okay.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you.
Why you're alone? We expect to deal with the
Don't call your insurance. She's visiting. Ναι. Λοιπόν, τι πράγμα. Okay, can you hear me? Good. So, welcome everybody. Welcome Cyprus, welcome to our island. Aloha. So it's good to see you, and we're only 14 minutes late, which for Cyprus standards we are 1 minute ahead. So we could wait for a few more people to come in. My name is Inno-EUt. Most of you might have received emails from me or saw me in one of the events. It's a great pleasure to host you here for our last closing/student demo day event, because it has been a really long time since we started, probably two years ago. So I won't keep you for long, and I will go through the program of the day. Let me. So our program for today, it will be really easy. I'll just talk a bit about the program in the beginning. In a bit, we'll also have our vice director, who's also our EUT coordinator, Professor Skalogiru, say hello, and he's just here. So Diri, before I start, you're going to have a short welcome from our vice director, and then we can continue.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cyprus, of course, and wish you all success in this event that is organized as a closing event for the Inno-EUt. Definitely, you know my feelings about the EUT in general. It's a prospect for the future. It's a new university that is going to be working under the European Union area with 8, possibly 9, not possibly, for sure 9, 9 partners in the near future. And we are very keen to move forward as a university, of course, and be part of this, because this is the future of European higher education. This is the feeling that we have. This is the opinion we have. This is the direction we get from the European Commission, that they want this very, very drastically, and they want it to be as successful as possible. Of course, now we have this change of the commissioner. Unfortunately, because Marisa Gabriel was a very, very good commissioner, although now is taking over as prime minister of her country. That's why she left from that post. It's a pity for the European University. It's good for her country, of course. I know, because it's. But in any case, this idea of having the innovation part and the entrepreneurship part into the studies of somebody, I think is a very important thing to happen especially for young people like you in your studies, to be able to and ready when you go into the working market, to be ready to take over and put these thoughts in your own job, in your own life, in your own way of doing things. And I hope that eventually you got something about these initiatives and out of these, let's say, projects, in inverted commas or not, because we usually don't consider this as projects. We usually call them either initiatives or something else, but not a project, because it's something that we put forward as a European university. And in any case, these projects, are gaining commas or not, were obtained under the UT umbrella. So it's one of the first that we got, I think, maybe the first one we got as EUT. And there are many more to come in the near future, I hope, especially when we go to the second phase, which we expect to hear the news by the end of this month. So we are all very keen to hear the news. We are confident that it's going to be okay, but unless you get the official letter saying that you got the second stage, you cannot be sure. But taking as an example from the previous call, for the first group of European universities that enter, only one left behind, and that one we know why it's not progressed. They make it everything wrong. Everything that could go wrong went wrong for that. So I think we produce much more than we were expected from the bill the deal that we have, and also very often we hear very complimentary comments from Gabriel, the previous commissioner, and also from the commissioner in general, from the European Commission in general. And even Gabriel at one stage told us that she wants EUT to be the MIT of Europe. You know, MIT, the Institute of Technology in the States, a very, very nice and very good university, very high level. And she expects us to be that, let's say, type of university in Europe. This is also our objective, to be the best and to be the largest, to be the most important. Billions, no billions, millions, okay. Million at the moment. Okay, we cannot reach this level, but okay, with 14 millions, not billions, are going to expect to get from the second phase if everything goes well. It's going to be a good start, I think, and it's up to us to create more funding. And anyway, that's all for me. Just wish you every success in these 2 days. Today's event.
Tomorrow I'll take them to Nicosia, to my homeland.
To the best city of Cyprus, of course. Okay, I'm very glad to see some known faces from the meeting we have with our partners. Actually, I was in Bulgaria last week, with the mayor, representation of the mayor. We visited the Sofia Tech Park.
Yeah, very good.
It's a very good one. And actually, I criticize Ludimir that for so long time, he didn't said anything about that. And it's a very, very high level, very good quality area there, renovated recently. For example, I have seen one of what they call it, supercomputer, of the terabyte scale. And and we heard that it's the 11th most, the biggest in the world. So it's a very good piece of equipment, and actually suggested, I suggested that the next meeting in Bulgaria is going to be there. So maybe we all have the opportunity to see the installation there. Okay, that's all from me. Every success, and see you here, and hope for the best.
Thank you. So, you heard the ambition from our vice director, and effectively, this is what we want when we say the MIT of Europe. Other than the unfair about it, it's about the scale. In Europe sometimes, and I was actually in Atlanta last week at Georgia Tech. When you visit these universities, they are massive. Massive means a lot of buildings, a lot of people, a lot of ideas, and then funding comes around it, regional, international, whatever you think of. But it's that sort of scale, and if we manage to create not something the same, but of some similar scale, we might have some chance. So what we will be doing today, if I manage to make this thing to work, if it won't work, let's see. Yes. So I think most of you are from Inno, but if you are not from one of our universities, here they are. It's the 7 of them. One is missing, but we have the people, which is even better, because we are not part of this project, but they are here visiting us. For instance, the Hochschule Darmstadt, the UTCN from Cluj-Napoca, TU Sofia, UPCT from Cartagena, UTT, unfortunately, they couldn't make it, and TU Dublin, as well as RTU from Latvia. 7 Tech HEI is 100K students and 10K staff. So this is the scale aspect we've been talking about. And the fact that you are here while you have joined a much smaller university, you enjoy the interaction with a lot more people that you would have normally, plus 2 clean tech and water tech accelerators who supported us in this journey. Our aim was mainly to plant seeds. This is something I came up while I was one of the workshops that the European Union makes for these alliances. And what we were, most of us at least, small regional universities in the outskirts of the heartland of Europe. There were other powerhouses with a lot more entrepreneurial activity, a lot more funding, and we were not lagging behind, but perhaps our staff and students would not aspire to become entrepreneurs. And then enter the financial crisis of 2009 and made people thinking, well, maybe if there are no jobs, we need to create the people who can create jobs for themselves, create those values propositions. And this is what we've been working around with. So what have we done? We managed to train 1,900 students. Actually, last week we had the meeting of all the cohorts of the projects, all 48 of them, and we were the third largest. And I think we were the third largest with probably the first largest with the fewest amount of partners. More than 500 innovative ideas were created. We trained a lot of the academic staff and a lot of the non-academic staff either to continue planting seeds or becoming trees by themselves, whether that means internal policies or getting their research out in the market, and try to support about 18 startups. Now, these 18 startups were not coming from these 500 innovative ideas, but they were actually part of our mentoring scheme with our two acceleration partners. We managed to have 3 demo day events. First one in Cartagena last January when masks, was it last January or 2 Januaries ago? 2020, 2022. Then this year around in Riga. You want to talk more?
Yes.
He's going to take my microphone.
No. Because I forgot to say thanks to Stadios, to Sonia, my colleagues, Eleni, and everybody, and Despina, and
Yes.
I forgot something. So back to say thanks because definitely as a coordinator took over most of the load of this effort, and without him this would not be.
Thank you, Sodiri. I took it and I passed it all to Antonia, so she's the real one to get the applause from everybody.
It's the sole secretary.
There's the shared coordination.
Yeah, the risk mitigation.
Okay.
Teamwork.
Thank you, Sodiris. So in these demo days, we used it actually as the little piece of cheese that you put away as a trap for the mice to bring them in. So sometimes we thought perhaps having the students participate in a training program within the university, they can go out and get this trip as a reward. And most of you were able to get this at least for the final one. We also had one entrepreneurship summer school organized by Ovidiu in UTN. Here he is. Where did you take them? Far away? Yeah, so they got some entrepreneurship skills plus COVID and made it through all of them, I suppose. So that was good, another good experience. And we had one entrepreneurship inspiration week here in Cyprus in October. In October, where the students participating had a dirty prototyping session where they had to come up with some small mock-ups, either digital or physical, of their ideas. And then we had the launch game where it was a very innovative game by one of our partners where there was a bit of, it was a social simulation, a role play of what it would entail for students to build their own startups in some funding cycles. And it was a lot of good fun with also some of our partners that we made along the way, such as PwC Cyprus. I can't even count the amount of hours that took people to coordinate and the mentoring going straight through. I think most of them were put by this person sitting in the front, without whom nobody would have been here. I remember last year, about this time around, I was preparing for my tenure interview when Sodiris via Aristos passed the information that we should apply for this. And then he just sent me a number of email addresses. And these email addresses happen to be some nice people that I see around here. And we made this project possible. So a lot of mentoring, a lot of trickle-through mentoring from the staff to other staff, to students, to startups. And it came to this. So in terms of what the deliverables, other than the actual people, we created a climate entrepreneurship program, a very lean program that can go either as a bolt-on in existing short courses in the universities, or as extracurricular activities, or as new modules like the one that we created here in Cyprus. The same with the change agents and the inclusive entrepreneurship and the universal design for learning that are designed to help our staff, academic and non-academic, bring changes within the organization and create even more of these
learning products or procedural products. And we got, I think what we created from this endeavor, from this initiative, was a very nice community, both internally within our organizations, between the organizations themselves, but also between the other cohorts and ones that have been to the Innovation Vision Action Plans organized by the HEI Initiative, so that there is a lot more to gain. And obviously, we managed to ask some students who would go on a trip to give a nice testimonial. So we have a few of these roads. So for us, it was great. It was all about planting seeds and creating more value for this community. And that's all from me. I hope I didn't take that long. I think Sotiris beat me to it. But before I go and pass the mic to our keynote speaker, Dr. LeahSpecer from the Cyprus Research Innovation Foundation, I would like everybody to give a round of applause to Antonia, who was the real coordinator of this project. Some people talk about the the problems created by the pandemic. For a small community like Cyprus, it brought some good things because it managed to bring some people here that were stuck in some other countries during COVID, and she was one of them. And we got trapped. We managed to keep that. That's a way to attract talent, is creating pandemics in bigger countries. And Leah, the mic is on to you. I think they need that for the for the live streaming, and you might need this. Oh, I need to change the presentation.
So my name's LeahSpecer. I am with the Research and Innovation Foundation. We fund about 30% of the research in Cyprus, everything that's not a direct grant to a university or research institute, so all the competitive stuff. We're unusual. We fund everything from TRL 1 through TRL 8. So from the most fundamental to right before it goes into the market. Very unusual. My background is I have a JD, which means I'm a doctor of jurisprudence. I was an IP law professor, among other things. I disappeared. I have a PhD. I'm a political philosopher, which means I know how to ask a question. That's real important for what we do. I'm a registered technology transfer professional, and I'm a certified new product development professional. Of all these things, this is the most important one for you, because if there's no product, who cares? Don't hit the market, you don't benefit anybody. I'm also a successful entrepreneur. I built an 80-person company that I retired from. For those of you that want to be entrepreneurs, the best day in your life, the second best day in your life, excuse me, is the day you found the company, and the best day is the day you exit. Let's talk about how you make a difference. And I will say I've raised about $3 billion for various clients through myself and the company. Anybody recognize this guy? He's the guy who said knowledge is power. Nobody recognizes him. How many of you have taken a course in science? Raise your hand if you've ever taken a class in science, any science. He's the reason you're taking the class. That's Francis Bacon. He developed the scientific method. You know why he developed the scientific method? He developed it because he wanted to use knowledge to do things. So the whole motivation for science, modern science as opposed to Aristotelian science, which is observational. Oh, look, the bird's flying, so they must do something that flies. Modern science manipulates the world, and the way you manipulate it is the basis for technologies. That's why he invented the experimental method, to manipulate the world to make it a better place. Let's look at an example of an environmental technology. This is the timeline for solar power. You can skim it quickly. I don't have to go through it for you. Solar really only comes in about 1975 when the cost gets down. Not too impressive, is it? This is Cyprus today. In 50 years, it is in risk of being desertified. We don't have those kind of timelines anymore, and I got real bad news for you. I have been commercializing environmental technologies for about 40 years. You know why most of them don't get to market? Anybody want to take a guess why they fail? They don't make money. Nobody, I'm going to use some, anybody get upset with profanity? Nobody gives a K about saving the world. You do, I do, lots of people care about it, but when it comes to business, it's nice, but first you got to make money. Because if you don't make money, the company goes out of business. So who cares? So they got to make money or they lose their jobs. And if your technology doesn't make money, it's not going to go anywhere. So how do you speed up the timeline? This is a new product development timeline. How do we get this to move faster? Well, let's start with some fundamentals. I'm sure you're aware of this, but nobody buys anything unless it's useful. It has to provide some core benefits that people want. And then it has to realize those benefits with a price, performance, ease of use, packaging, and a quality that they want. And then there's all these augmented things that you can do to make it easier for people to buy them. But it's got to be useful. We always forget this. Utility is where it always begins. And that means it's useful for a specific person. So if you don't know the specific people who are going to put their hands on your technology, it ain't going to market. Because unless there is an end user, nobody buys it. And if nobody buys it, what happens? No money. Now, the end user can be any one of these kinds of things. It can be a government agency who buys it to do good things. The government of the Republic of Cyprus, the UN, whoever. An interest group, Friends of the Earth who buy it. But somebody's got to buy it and use it. And be aware the end user may not be the customer. The customer is the one with the money. The end user is the one who touches it. And it's got to be a priority, and I call this priority oomph. It's got to have enough oomph to make you want to buy it today. We'll come back to oomph. What does utility mean? It means somebody's going to trade a bag of groceries to get it. Forget about money. Utility can be measured in bags of groceries. Think about your technology. Think about your intended users. How many bags of groceries would they give up to have it? Literally. How much food will you take out of your mouth in order to have this technology rather than pig out? Because if you're not going to take food out of your mouth, it doesn't have any utility. It's not important enough to them. So we can say so many bags of groceries equal a Ferrari. Money's just an arbitrary unit in which we measure bags of groceries. If we know what the price of a bag of groceries are, we can figure out the price of the Ferrari that somebody's willing to pay for the Ferrari based on how many bags of groceries they'll give up. Always come back to, is it worthwhile giving up that bag of groceries? If you keep that in mind, you'll do fine. That's the person who's the starting point. And you got to say, what's this person doing? Why are they doing it? Where are they doing it? When are they doing it? How often are they doing it? All those kinds of questions. Because if it's not worthwhile for that person to pick it up, it ain't going to work. Take this microphone. It has no utility for me. I would not use it except for he said, well, we need it for the film. So I'm not giving up any bags of groceries for it. Fortunately, it costs me nothing to hold it, so I'm willing to hold it. Then you got to consider oomph. So anybody know who invented the sewing machine? You all know what a sewing machine is, yes? Sewing machine was invented by a guy named Elias Howe. It was invented at the time of the U.S. Civil War. It was invented because there were lots of people going to the Union Army and they needed to make uniforms for them, and uniforms were made out of wool. You know, you can't make uniforms fast by hand sewing them. So he invents this rudimentary sewing machine, very effective, very successful, but there's a problem. How do you put the buttons on to keep it closed? Because back then it was very hard to hit the holes in a button, so the buttons still had to be put on by hand. Slowed down the whole process. So Elias Howe goes out and invents a universal closing device, an early zipper, basically. But it doesn't work very well. Civil War ends. Nobody cares anymore. Sewing machines stay in business, but there's no mass manufactured production because it's too expensive to ship clothes everywhere. That's the zipper. We talk about a sexy technology. The zipper is a sexy technology. The zipper was reinvented slightly before World War I, as the name zipper was used then. It was invented as a way to close the leather jackets that the fighter pilots wore and to close saddlebags for mules. After the war, everybody thought it was kind of language, but something interesting happened. A couple of things happened. One, after the war, trucks had come in. They were developed. The car was developed before the war. Trucks were perfected during the war as a way to move supplies. That meant the manufactured production of uniforms could lead to national distribution of manufactured clothing in the United States. That the war develops, so on and so forth. But anybody recognize what this is? That's a flapper dress. Anybody, you know what a flapper dress is? You know, the Roaring 20s, Chicago, all that stuff. That's what made the zipper. It turns out a designer put the zipper in the flapper dress. And you know why that was important? Because if you're like me and your guy comes home from the war and you're wearing buttons, your dress is starting to move apart. And it's not so attractive, but the zipper holds you nice and tight. And that is literally what made the zipper ubiquitous. That's oomph. Here's another example of oomph, the toaster. This is what the toaster looks like, early toasters look like. Anybody ever study in the U.S. in this room? Then you wouldn't know this. We have a saying in the U.S. We say this is the best thing since ever. What did somebody say? Yes! Yes, the toaster is responsible for sliced bread. This is literally why sliced bread was invented. And the first sliced bread was called Wonder Bread. And being sexist, it was white. Racist, rather, in the U.S., it was white bread. They bleached it. I don't know why. Made it less healthy. But anyways, what happened? When you made the early zipper, the elements couldn't handle anything too big because they had to be far apart and they would fry out. You couldn't put enough power through it. So the early toasters had to be very narrow and people would hand cut bread the wrong way and they couldn't get it in the toaster. So you get this, but after World War I again, women come home, or rather men are coming home. Women were working in factories in World War I. They're like, I'm not going to sit all day and turn the bread over in the frying pan to make your breakfast or your lunch. You know, they wanted conveniences. So that's what gave the oomph to the toaster. There's the history of the toaster. You can see again, it took a long time before it really started to take off. So you need that. What makes it worthwhile to buy it today? Sometimes it's a government regulation, but sometimes it's, a massive flood nowadays. But there needs to be some oomph. Now, if you want to figure out if you're going to have oomph, figure out what people normally do in your field. Here's an example. Way back in prehistory, somebody wanted to get across a river. And they're like, whoa, very wet, river very deep, can't walk across. And they saw a log floating by and they got on the log and they did this and they got across the river. And after a while, they said, you know what? If we hollowed it out a little, we could sit in it and not roll off. And so there were stone axes back then. You can go to the Neolithic site not too far from here and see that. Anybody ever use a stone axe? I have. I used to represent archaeologists in Washington, D.C. I got to actually try and make a canoe with a stone axe out of a log. And after an hour, I had gotten about this much and that far. And I said, okay, 3 years later, I'll have a canoe enough. Somebody saw a log burning because it was dried out and it had a crack. And that's where the idea of putting it just came in. Now, why is this important? Early on in fields, in any market, when there's nothing there and you're doing something very disruptive, the question is, what should be the features? What is this product actually? What is the features and functionality we're looking for? You guys are too young. I remember when cell phones came in. I actually remember when the internet came in. That's how old I am. I once was at a museum with my son. And it was called the Air and Space Museum. It was with my grandmother, who was over 100. And I went in, and they had the Wright brothers plane. And my son was just in awe to see this biplane, or well, it actually wasn't what we think of as a biplane, but to see the Wright brothers plane. And everybody was really impressed because my grandmother remembered when that happened, the first time she read about humans flying in the Wright brothers airplane. And we came out, and my son was like, "Oh, Grandma, I can't believe you did that. I mean, it's so weird." And she turned, she never swore, but she turned to my son and she said, "Shit, I remember when there were no cars." And he said, dominant design for transportation. Car comes in, and then after a while, people start thinking instead of, so in the early stages, there's lots of process innovation. Later on, product innovation. Later on, it moves to process innovation. How do you make it faster, better, cheaper? So you got to look at your technologies that you're developing and say, where do I fit on this kind of cycle? Am I over here in the product side? Am I a process technology? Because that helps you figure out how you're going to get it to market. And if it's disruptive,